We need to just go for things, even if we have no chance of being able to succeed, because you just don't know. When you run 100 miles or 200 miles, then you have that knowledge and that experience of doing something completely impossible. In that way, I think running has transformed how I interact with the world. I'm really drawn to trying to see where is the absolute limit that you can't go past.
Well, this was an emotional, heavy film to watch. The ever frustrating patriarchal system in the Middle East. We have Stephanie, who's training women in Kabul to be runners, and she's so courageous, and her heart is in the right place. But the hindsight for the viewer is that we know the Taliban is coming. And she is worried about that, and so are the women she's training. And when it comes in, 2 of her women actually get to America. But their agony is that they're there while their families are left behind to suffer. It's very difficult to watch and process this information and still hold out hope, but I am glad to have seen the documentary. I was really informed about what life is like for them, and I was glad to get to know this character.
You have this fight against fear, essentially. You have this personal challenge, this race for this runner, but you see how she's using this race and running in general to quiet her own insecurities. And then it turns into a bigger mission with raising money for women's shelters in Afghanistan. And then finding out that they have this desire to do all the activities that she gets to do, and without any reservations, something as simple as running outside and allowing these women opportunities to partake in activities they wouldn't get a chance to usually. Running becomes a bigger thing. It becomes an escape, especially in places of the world that are dealing with issues governmentally like the Taliban. There's much concern. And you see that starts becoming the underlying concern of this documentary is the return of the Taliban, and how this is going to affect the women living in this region. And when they actually does come back and to that regime regains power, and you see how everyone has to flee, you can hear the terror in these personal moments of these women fleeing. And you can really just feel the heaviness of them. And you get this personal feeling of, I really want to see them get out. It all ties itself together because she is able to run her race and accomplish more than she thought by coming in third. But the bigger picture of this, I think, is her work to get her free-to-run workers out of Afghanistan, and essentially what happens to these women in this region now that the Taliban is back.
We meet Canadian Stephanie Case, who runs for the human rights of Afghan girls and women. Her interviews are so honest and heartfelt. She is a true inspiration as she pushes herself to the limit. There's a lot of stunning footage of the area in Italy where she's running, and also the physical and emotional toil this run has on her. I was so moved by the interviews of the brave women taking part in the runs with her. Very appropriate orchestral soundtrack, which really suited this dramatic story. What a worthy cause.
Stunning visuals to set things up. The first 3 minutes of narration over those stunning visuals really does a good job at also setting everything up very well. We learn about Stephanie, and it's just such a remarkable story. We learn about the race, which sounds impossible, but I guess that's almost kind of the point too. So it all ties together nicely. Again, it's just such an incredible journey to be able to share through this documentary. It's a remarkable life story, so it's just quality subject matter, and it's a good cause. Raising money for women's shelter in Afghanistan, but then on top of that, also actually inspiring them to be free to run. It all just ties together brilliantly. It's poetic the way it's put together.
Really interesting look at not only a human rights issue, but ways within our everyday life we can do something about it, bring awareness to it, and work for a cause, and how this, while Stephanie is doing this for women in or Afghani women, any of us could really take up a cause in a similar fashion and do that. And I think that was a really important takeaway from this. I think it was a really inspirational story, and I think there's a lot more you could do with it if you wanted to develop it into a full documentary. Overall, really, really interesting and really well done.
I thought the way that the information was presented, both the personal accounts and